우린 말이 아니야. 사람이야.
This was supposed to be the big finale, the one to bring it all home. Instead, it left fans frustrated, confused, and asking, what was that ending? Let's break down everything that went wrong with Squid Game Season 3. Spoilers ahead, watch only if you finished Squid Game Season 3.
If you've ever wished that you could actually understand what they're saying in scenes like this, I got something special at the end of this video.
So let's start with one of the biggest disappointments. The deaths of well-written contestants were completely wasted. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating things this season, how it casually tosses aside some of its most promising characters before they even get the chance to matter. Now don't get us wrong. We all know what Squid Game is about. It's brutal. It's survival of the fittest. You win or you die. That's the whole premise. We've known the rules since Season 1. And honestly, we were ready for heartbreak. We expected shocking eliminations. But here's the thing. Heartbreak only hits if you actually care. And this season, it didn't even bother to make us care before pulling the plug. Just hear us out. These weren't just background players tossed in to pad the body count. We're talking about characters like Hyunju and Daeho, two contestants who were clearly being set up as important. They were front and center in trailers, interviews, and promo events. Their faces were everywhere. And the actors, Park Sung-hoon, who's been on fire lately, and Kang Han-yul, one of the most respected names in Korean entertainment. You don't cast talent like that unless you're planning something big, right? Apparently not, because by the end of the first game, both of them are dead. Let's start with Hyunju. She's introduced as a former Special Forces soldier, calm, tactical, and clearly someone trained to survive, the kind of contestant you expect to go far. She has that quiet charisma, the aura of someone who's seen war, who knows how to assess danger, who doesn't panic, and early on, she proves her skill, holding her own in moments of chaos, thinking strategically when others are scrambling. And then, boom, Hyunju gets stabbed in the back by Myung-gi, a desperate player who's convinced that killing everyone in a blue vest will somehow end the game early and let him run off with the prize money for his pregnant ex, Jun-hee. Yeah, it's clearly meant to shock us. But the way it happens, so fast, so random, so empty. There's no build-up, no tension, no moral dilemma, just stab, dead. That's it. If the show truly wanted to hit us where it hurts, if it wanted to echo the kind of betrayal that made Squid Game Season 1 so powerful, then Hyunju's death should have come at the hands of someone like Young-sik. That would have landed. Young-sik was already spiraling, emotionally frayed, morally shaken, and clearly on the verge of breaking. If he had been the one to stab her, it would have felt tragic but believable. The kind of character-driven twist that reminds you no one is safe, and everyone is human. And Hyunju? Completely wasted. She had breakout character energy from the start. Quiet strength, mystery, and instant audience appeal. She didn't even need a ton of dialogue to leave an impact. But instead of building on that momentum, the show throws her away in a blink. And for what? Just to leave Joon-hee and Gyum-ja defenseless? Just to set them up for easier deaths later on? Because if that's the case, it's not just disappointing, it's lazy. And it sucks to watch a show that used to treat every death with emotional weight start tossing characters aside just for cheap shock value. Now let's talk about Daeho, and honestly, this one hurts. From the moment he showed up, you could tell the show wanted us to root for him. Grounded, kind, dependable, Daeho had fan favorite written all over him. The way he quietly connected with others, the weight he carried. It felt like there was something deeper, some heartbreaking backstory just waiting to unfold. But nope. Just like that, he's gone. Before we even get to know him. And why? To remind us that Gi-hun is still spiraling, still numb to death. We've known that since Season 2. We didn't need to kill off one of the season's most promising characters to drive that home again. And don't even get me started on the shaman character. She was set up so well. This eccentric, maybe unhinged wild card. She felt dangerous, mysterious, like someone who could blow up the entire game dynamic in the best way. Maybe she had a plan. Maybe she knew something we didn't. Maybe she was the game's twisted oracle. But nope, killed off in the first game. Why even bother hyping her up? This is the real problem. Back in Season 1, even the side characters had deaths that hit like a truck. Ji-young, Ali, the old man. You felt it. Every loss was personal. But now, it's like the show's just clearing the board. Characters with potential, gone in a blink, just shock value. And honestly, the story's worse for it. By the later rounds of Season 3, the field is nearly empty, not just in player count, but emotionally. The cast is a blur of unknowns and flat personalities. No arcs, no stakes. Be honest, can you name a single finalist other than Myung-gi? And even Myung-gi? He's all over the place. One second he's breaking down, begging Junhee for forgiveness, promising to change. The next, he's threatening to toss their baby off a ledge for prize money. Like, what? It's clear the show was trying to make him the new Sang-woo. You know, desperate, morally gray, slowly spiraling into darkness. But the difference? Sang-woo made sense. His breakdown was painful, but it felt earned. We saw him crack under pressure, watched him struggle with pride, guilt, and fear. So, when he turned on Sae-byuk, it hurt. It was brutal, but it made narrative sense. You hated what he did, but you understood why. Myung-gi, on the other hand, just flips between extremes like it's nothing. There's no build-up, no clear motive, no emotional logic. He goes from protective dad to total maniac in the blink of an eye, and not in a wow, he's unraveling kind of way. More like, wait, why is he doing this again? With Sang-woo, every betrayal felt like a punch to the gut, because you knew what it cost him. Those moments wrecked us, because we knew those characters. We understood what they were fighting for. That's what made it powerful. Season 3 skips all of that. Characters die suddenly, quietly, and without consequence. The show moves on like nothing happened. And so do we. It's all empty. And that's the biggest failure. Squid Game forgot what made it great. It used to be about the cost of survival. But this season, it never even tries to earn that question. Because it never gives us characters worth grieving.
If you want to start learning Korean using your favorite K-dramas, we have a first group of class for free. Link is in the description.
Second, Gi-hun's arc and the most anticipated confrontations fall devastatingly flat. One of the most frustrating things about Squid Game Season 3 is how it drops the ball on its biggest emotional anchors. Especially Gi-hun's arc and the confrontations that should have been the backbone of the finale. Let's start with Gi-hun. From day one, he's been the heart of the show. In Season 1, he was flawed but deeply human, grieving, hesitating, choosing kindness in a world built on violence. That inner conflict is what made him compelling. You rooted for him because he still had a conscience. By Season 2, that conscience is hanging by a thread. He's darker, angrier, haunted by everything he's seen. He refuses to touch the prize money. He's consumed by his need to dismantle the game. It all made sense. A natural evolution of his trauma. But in Season 3, that emotional continuity completely falls apart. Gi-hun is written as colder, more violent, and disturbingly detached. We see him make cruel choices, lash out in rage, and push people away, but we never see the internal conflict or slow deterioration that should accompany those actions. And then comes what should have been the moment. The face-to-face confrontation between Gi-hun and the frontman, In-ho. This was the arc so many fans had been anticipating for years. In-ho isn't just another antagonist. He's the new face of the system Gi-hun has vowed to fight. He represents everything that broke Gi-hun: the manipulation, the death, the trauma. Their confrontation was supposed to be personal, explosive, and emotionally devastating. And yes, Gi-hun was furious. You could see it in his eyes, hear it in his voice. But when they finally meet, nothing explodes. There's rage, but no reckoning. A few bitter words, a stare, and it's over. No challenge to the system In-ho now represents. After years of buildup, the most important face-off in the show lands with a dull thud. And we're left asking, that's it? And unfortunately, the show repeats the same mistake in another crucial moment. the long-awaited reunion between the Hwang brothers, Junho and In-ho. Since season 1, Junho has risked everything to find his brother and expose the truth behind the games. He went undercover, he took a bullet, he disappeared for an entire season. His arc was one of the show's most emotionally loaded threads, and it deserved a powerful resolution. But when the brothers finally see each other again, the moment barely registers. In-ho is holding the winning baby when Junho storms into the VIP room, gun drawn, shaking, emotional, desperate for answers. "Why did you do it?" he asks. And In-ho, after 3 seasons of buildup, he just walks away. 6 months later, Junho comes home to find the baby and the prize money waiting on his doorstep. In-ho's one and only response, a silent gesture, a vague, wordless attempt at redemption. And honestly, it falls flat. They really tried to use the baby as an emotional shortcut for everything. For tension, for sacrifice, for closure. And it ended up feeling like a cheap stand-in for actual storytelling. Lastly, and probably the most disappointing of all, an ending that changed nothing. For a series that once shook the world with its unflinching portrayal of desperation, power, and moral collapse, Squid Game Season 3 closes not with a revolution, but with resignation. Not with a message, but with marketing. Let's start with the most obvious. Nothing truly happens. Gi-hun, the heart of this franchise, the man who survived the worst horrors and still chose hope, dies. And not in triumph. Not as a revolutionary, he dies alone, silently, after a season spent making decisions that feel wildly out of sync with the character we once knew. He doesn't expose the system, he doesn't take down the front man, he doesn't even make the game pause for breath. And what about In-ho, the front man? A man whose fall from grace could have been one of the most tragic and compelling stories in K-drama history. For 3 seasons, fans waited for answers. How did a former cop, a brother, become the executioner? Where did he break? What made him give in? But instead of giving us insight, we get implication, a few flashbacks, a suggestion of guilt, a quick look in Gi-hun's direction. That's all? And then there's Captain Park, another wasted opportunity. We finally find out he's a mole, tied to the recruiter, tied to the front man, photos, evidence, a trail that could have cracked open the operation from the inside. And what does the show do with that opportunity? He panics, he shoots, he dies. One line, "I was just following orders." And the curtain drops. No explanation for how the game pulls ordinary people into becoming monsters. This could have been the moment we finally saw how the system spreads, how it infects good people, how it turns survivors into recruiters and brothers into tyrants. But the show walks away again. Another thread dropped, another chance wasted. And the arc of Junhee, Myunggi, and their baby, easily the most awaited part of the season, ends in the same way, with no satisfying resolution. Junhee dies nobly, but no one remembers. Myunggi turns into a cartoonish villain, making choices that feel contradictory and chaotic. And the baby, literal embodiment of innocence, of sacrifice, of what's worth saving, survives only because the writers decided it would be most convenient. And so we get to that final scene. The frontman drives through the city. He rolls down his window, and there, in a familiar alley, we see Cate Blanchett, dressed like a corporate god, playing Dokji with a desperate man. A beat-for-beat echo of the recruiter's opening scene from season 1. She lifts her eyes. She locks gaze with In-ho. They recognize each other. A silent nod. A new cycle beginning. And just like that, it's over. No closure, no rebellion, no peace, just a commercial for the next installment, a soft launch for Squid Game U.S. And we're left wondering, was that really what all of this was building toward? Because if this ending was meant to be the climax, the resolution to 3 seasons of heartbreak, sacrifice, and systemic horror, then what was the point? Was Gi-hun's death just a plot device? Was the baby's survival just a hollow symbol of hope? If all this pain, all this trauma, all this effort was just set up for a spin-off, Then what we got wasn't an ending. It was a placeholder. And for a show that once dared to ask what people would do to survive, Season 3 never asked what it meant to truly change anything at all. But hey, maybe that's just us. So, what did you think of Squid Game Season 3? Were you satisfied with the ending? Or were you, like us, left with more questions than closure? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're dying to know if we're the only ones still processing.
안녕하세요. Hi, my name is Jalen. On Saturday, July 12th Eastern Standard Time, we invite you to join a Korean language class using your favorite K-dramas. Every week, we meet on Zoom to break down real drama scenes and learn useful Korean phrases you hear in your favorite shows. It's beginner-friendly, fun, and totally different from boring textbooks. You'll practice speaking, understand what the actors are really saying, and learn naturally with other fans. The first class is completely free. Just click in the link to save your spot right now and join our private Facebook group where we will post updates and useful materials. I'll see you in class. 감사합니다.